nothing but, say, there might be some applications which are necessity to be launched through command prompt. Okay, this black screen which you are seeing on my screen corresponds to Windows shell. Okay, wherein you can actually do a lot of programming of the Windows shell itself. It is nothing but similar to that of K shell or Bash shell on the Unix box. So we can actually do a lot of things. Say when I say Nico Prakash, the Prakash actually got printed over here. So you can actually use this command prompt for various purposes. All the batch programming of Windows corresponds to Windows shell. So there might be some applications which are launched by Windows shell. So if you want to record only on those, you can actually check this box, or you can actually specify the application name. For example, this is the application and this is the folder. Say include all descendant process and don't launch the application. Okay. When I click on this, it gets selected over here, and I can actually update these details whenever I want. So when I propose like this, record and run only on applications opened by quick test and applications specified below, it only uses these applications. But it's a general practice because there will be no confusion. You just click on the first option and don't use the second option. Clicking on the first option will enable you that record and run test on any Windows based application. So some scrap will come into picture and gets recorded, but it's okay. As long as we are working on our own application under test, we will not have any other scrap getting recorded in our particular test. Okay. Sometimes what happens is if you actually select this option and go ahead, there might be a conflict on your machine wherein the Explorer will get automatically stuck upon, especially in QTP 11, because it's a pretty unstable version, because the script debugger is an external script debugger in QTP 11. So its DLLs might get clashed with some other process working upon, and it might become non-responsive. So don't worry, as long as you're working on QTP 10 as a tool, you will not face these sort of problems, because QTP 10 is much stable than QTP 11. Still, there are some problems with QTP 10 which they try to resolve in QTP 11, but they will evolve soon or with another version so that it will become much stable. Okay, and until last session, what we have actually done, we have actually seen look and feel of QTP. We have learned our 5 own topics of conceptualization of this tool. What is a test object, what is a runtime object, what is object repository, what is object identification, and what is object spike. Okay, then we have moved on to probably actions. We have seen what are the different types of actions, what is a reusable action, what is a non-reusable action, what are nested actions, how to actually call one action into another, what are the different ways of doing so. In the last session, we have seen how the complexity of the actions can be increased, wherein I have called 4 actions at the same level, and I have actually called 4 more actions at different levels within the actions. We have seen what is an addition, what is a subtraction, multiplication, and division at the same level. Then I have introduced some actions at different levels. We have seen how to call different actions at the end of the test or at the end of the current step. What is the difference between these two? Now today what we are going to see is an important discussion on parameterization, and what are the different types of parameters, and what is a parameter, what are the different types of parameters available. We have seen what is a parameter, but still I will actually explain to you what are the different types of parameters available, and what is parameterization, and how to achieve parameterization in QTP. It is very important because there is something called as when you actually open this tool, it will actually boost itself. The tool itself boosts itself as a keyword driven test framework. So we will see when discussing frameworks what is keyword driven test framework. But there are several types of frameworks for testing available. When I say framework, especially for automation, uh, Framework is nothing but imagine that there are some additional features provided to you by default. That's it. That is nothing but a framework. Say suppose for example, if you want to achieve something of writing on a notepad, if it is done using a single command, that means your work is made easy. So as long as these features of work made easy are available to you, we call it as a framework. So that is this tool itself, the Boost itself as a keyword-driven test framework. That is nothing. That is not big. That is because simply for the reason that it provides you with a keyword view, and that keyword view actually has got something like each line corresponds to a particular keyword. Comment is a keyword here. Parameter is a keyword here. Action 4 is a keyword here. So it is because of this reason each line has got something called to action 1 item, called to action 2 item. So we can actually change the values there itself. So it similarly looks like to that of an Excel sheet, right? Wherein we'll have 4 rows, each row will have certain particular purpose, and when I say comment, it actually goes to the comment section here. So similarly, that is for this reason actually it itself pushed as a keyword view, but people doesn't generally use keyword view at all, because this keyword view is not that robust as compared to people creating their own keyword driven frameworks. Okay, what is a framework? Somebody has got this doubt of what is a framework. Anyway, I will extensively go through frameworks, but today just remember that what is framework is. Framework is nothing but it provides you with some tools to make your work, testing work, easy. Okay, when I say easy, it is I stand by my word. For example, uh, let us take the example of .NET framework. People say that whether .NET framework is installed or not. So what is the advantage of .NET framework getting installed on your machine? It is also a framework. Why .NET framework is necessary? Because it has got certain tools through which our work is made easy while .NET programming. Okay, so what are those tools which will make our work easy through in the .NET programming are, say for example, we will use something called as a command called using. This is not here. We should write this in properly Visual Studio in order to understand this. Okay, if somebody has done coding inside that, people will understand. Okay, we'll write something like this. What is this system.datetime? System.datetime is a feature that has been provided, is a reference that has been provided and made available by .NET framework. Okay, so obviously while using this, when you can actually use this somewhere as so like this we can actually set an object in Visual Studio. So when I do this part, it is nothing but we are actually directly using this, and we are creating an object of it and we are instantiating it. So obviously what happens is there is a feature of date time, and there are some methods already written inside the framework, and we are directly using them. We are not creating our own methods for and we wasting our time in probably nonsense coding. So whatever the features that are provided ready-made for us, that is nothing but called as a framework feature. So it is these sort of things will make our work and our life happier. So already people, because they know that they doesn't require everybody to actually work upon them. So that is what framework is. Here QTP also tried to provide a keyword view by actually using this here when I actually say action. So I can go into it, and the operation here is message box. Actually, this is a function call. I can change it as a function call into another thing. Say when so I can change from here itself. So my work is actually made easy by all these objects like parameter, etc., etc. So it tried to boost itself, but to larger extent, this keyword view of QTP is a failure in itself. Okay, so people actually doesn't use this because people need much more features than what keyword view of QTP provides them in order to test it effectively, because there are lot more ready-made features that actually needs to be provided to testers, and testers themselves have written their own sort of frameworks for this purpose. Okay, we are actually deviating. Let's come back to the topic of what is a parameter and what is parameterization and what are types of parameters. Okay. Parameter is a variable used as a reference that is assigned a value preferably from an external source. So anything can be a parameter. Say for example, say var1, variable 1 is a parameter. Okay, but when I actually use this variable 1, it doesn't have any meaning. Say when I use set variable 1, it doesn't have any meaning at all. Or when I say variable 1 is equal to x, it doesn't carry any significance or any meaning. We don't know what is x is, we don't know what variable 1 is. So variable 1 can be anything as long as I use it as variable 1. Say for example, I given an example last time. That's the best example possible properly. Say for example, say when you are actually solving logical problems in your graduation or before that until in schools and all. Say suppose if there is a word problem that is in mathematics that is given to you to solve, you will actually always write a statement that let us imagine number of apples as x. So what is that x? That x is a parameter. It can be anything. So you are actually trying to evolve upon what x is based on certain conditions. So obviously the same happens here. So until and unless is a variable used as a reference, it is simply a reference as long as I use it. But during the course, it is assigned a value preferably from an external source. So we actually use an external source to assign a value to it. Say for example, here if I use an external source is my manual source, so I am assigning it as 5. Okay, the external source can be something which is provided by the tool itself. So what are the external sources that are actually provided by the tool and what are internal sources? We will actually see. Internal sources here I meant that probably say we are actually retrieving value from one function and actually passing them to the other function, that is actually called as internal sourcing. External sourcing is suppose we have got something from an external Excel sheet kept somewhere in the location, or we have got something from the notepad file, or we have got something from a any other place, CSV file, whatever the file can be, placed in some other network drive, etc. We want to actually retrieve values from there and pass on those values to the tester. We will use external sources. Okay, so what are the different types of parameters? First of all, how many ways are available to pass on a reference? That is important, and then we'll see what parameterization is. There are typically 4 types of parameters. One is test parameters and action parameters. We'll see what test parameters are and what action parameters are. Data table parameters, okay, environment variable parameters and repository parameters. Okay, repository parameters people generally don't use, but I'll show you what repository parameters are. Okay, and then what is parameterization? Nothing but actually using parameters or variables instead of actually values, and passing the real values in different steps of the operations is called as actually parameterization. That means, for instance, right now we use say x for something as an input parameter, and we will not pass any values, but as and when we require, we will pass on the value of x as 2, x as 3, x as 4. For each value we pass 1, we get a different output, right? Say for example, if x is equal to 2, then my purpose I might get, say for example, x and y as 2 numbers as addition. If x is equal to y, y is equal to 4, then the addition will be x plus y is equal to 9. If x is equal to 10, y is equal to probably 11, then my value of addition of two numbers would be something different. So we will actually try to make an example right now when I'm dealing with data table parameters, and we will actually try to parameterize it. But try to understand the first concept of test parameters and action parameters. These are not generally used. Okay, generally used parameters are data table parameters and environment parameters, and to certain extent repository parameters also. But 1 and 4 are least commonly used by the testers because they find it very awkward to actually use this stuff. But let me try to put it and explain to you, because knowing the concept on the tool is important. It is again the tester's prerogative whether to use it or not. So what is test parameter and what are action parameters? So the test parameters are the parameters available for the whole test. That means each test might have n number of actions. Say here I have got 4 actions: action 1, action 2, action 3 and action 4. But test parameters are the parameters that are available for the whole test. So what is this purpose of the test parameters? So test parameters and how to create these test parameters. Test parameters can be created from file settings, and you will find the word parameters here, and I am defining a parameter name as param1. Okay, I am not passing on any default value, neither I am actually giving a description stating that it is a test parameter 1. There are two types of parameters whenever you speak upon, especially with test parameters and data table parameters. One is an input value and one is an output value. You can also give an input value. You can actually collect the value somewhere else. Okay, so we can actually give an output value. So it will not have any default value because we are not passing on anything. We are not actually using any values. We are actually trying to collect some value in output parameter. So for this test I have applied for this test I have applied two parameters. One is an input parameter param1, the another is an output parameter out param1. Okay. So how to use these test parameters? During the course of the test, we cannot use these parameters, but we can use these parameters from externally. How to use it? If I try to run this test, you will actually see it is asking for two things. One is the result location here. Okay. The other is the input parameters. Now what happens is, if I click on input parameters, it is asking me for this particular type of test param1, what is the value that you are going to process. It is not showing here as a default value, it is actually asking the real time value. So for this test, how to run this? Say for example, I will say that param1, my value of param1 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and if I click on OK, that means whenever this param1 as a value is used inside the test, it will actually replace it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So where this is typically used, where these test parameters are typically used is, say for example, you are using QC to actually run the test. Okay. Inside QC, you will actually specify what is the test that you need to run. Suppose the test you need to run is parameter script. The same test you are actually running from QC. So when you are running from QC, it would be important for you if you actually specify some parameters like you please run this test for XYZ purpose only. So that XYZ is actually passed on as a value to that particular test, and those parameters will only be used in the test parameters and those will be called. Or else there is an object model, quick test object model available. Don't get confused don't be worried about what this quick test object model is. I will explain you what this quick test object model is. So there is a quick test object model available, and through using external VB scripting itself, advanced scripting, you want to invoke this pit test professional and you want to run a particular test, and while running that particular test you actually want to pass on certain values. Okay, like for example, use the result location as so and so location, and you want to use it as a result location. Every time you want to save results at a different location. So what will happen is, every time I use this run button, I go to this input parameter. Say for example, if this parameter is my result location, I will pass on the result location as C drive. Properly, like C drive Prakash. If there is this sort of folder, I will pass on the folder name and I will ask that this is my results. So please save the results here itself. So what happens is, this parameter I will replace the original result location here. So the original result location is C users Prakash this thing temp result. So I will actually replace it with param1 result. So that is how the test parameters typically work. Also I have defined output parameter. When can I actually see the output parameter is, say these are some of the test results. So as soon as an output parameter comes into picture, at the end of the test you can actually find the checkpoints and parameters. So the output parameters is actually collected and shown in the result sheet. I will show you a sample script for that when I actually run some test parameters using some test parameter values. That we can anyway do it in the future and we can actually achieve it. Probably I will give you as a part of exercise and explain it to you how to do it. Okay. Then comes the next important part is action parameters. What is the action parameter? It is the same. What is the difference between a test parameter and an action parameter? Test parameter is you can use that parameter in any of these actions. So that is applicable to whole of actions. Action 1, action 2, action 3 and action 4. And test as a whole, the test parameter is applicable. But action, when I define an action parameter, it is local to this particular action only. Okay, it is not applicable to test. I cannot find those inside file settings. I cannot find action parameters here. When I can only find test parameters here, I won't find action parameters. It is nothing but test parameters are like global variables, applicable globally. When I say globally, it is applicable to the whole test. But when I use action 1 parameters or action 2 parameters, they are only specific to the local actions. Say when I define a parameter from action 1, it is for action 1 only. If I define parameters for action 2, it is for action 2. Now how to define these action parameters? Action parameters are defined through like this. Say when you are in the same action, you just go to right click it, action properties, or you can actually go edit action properties. So both the ways you will open the same window. So as soon as you see you are in the action 1, so the action 1 properties are there. Here I have defined one input parameter called as param1. Now you might ask, oh, for the test also you have defined a parameter param1, in the action also you have defined a parameter param1. Will there be any clash? Especially the answer is no, there will be no clash, because those are test parameters. The name of the parameter is same, but it is fine. It assumes different value at different stages, because that gets invoked at a different stage, this gets invoked at a different stage. While invoking, it gets overridden. So suppose if I have a test parameter as param1 and if I got an action parameter as param1 with the same name, it is fine, absolutely fine. There is no problem with it. Okay. So what happens is, as soon as I start my test and pass on a value as 1, 2, 3, 4, the param1 will have 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as it enters action 1, the param1 will assume the value of the action. It again goes back to the original thing. That means you can play with x. X will have say value at the start as 10, and if I override x as value of 5 for certain time, it will have value of 5. And as soon as it gets overridden again, it comes back to the original test, it will become 10 again. So that is not a big issue. The only thing is, make sure that in order to avoid confusion, make sure that you use different parameters name for tests as well as actions. That is the best possible method. So suppose I have used the same name, param1 and param1. Instead, you can use a different thing, action param1 and test param1. That will avoid a bit confusion. So don't get confused. we can use x at n number of places. Say for example, you are solving two word problems in mathematics. Okay, the first word mathematics problem, you have written the first statement as let us assume the number of apples as x. For the second problem, you are again writing let us assume the number of oranges as x. Now my question is, why are you again using x? So I am a bit confused because I am using x at two places for solving two problems. No. My x value is always 10 because the first answer of my first problem of x is always 10. So I will use always x as 10 only. My value of x is always 10. Don't use it again. But actually in reality we can use it again because that problem is solved, that is there itself. This is another problem. This is the scope is different. So my value of x is higher. I am going to evolve it in a different way. So that is how the parameter names are. So how to define action parameters? In action 1 I have defined a parameter as again param1. Then I have got 4 actions actually. Okay. In action 2 I have actually defined no parameters. Okay. But I have used a variable x here and I have assigned a value as param2. Okay. Just to show you that how values can be assigned. Okay, if you are not using parameters also, how values can be assigned, but passing these values will become tough. Okay, we have got something called as third action here I have created. Here also I have created a parameter which is nothing but parameter 3, and I actually defined an output parameter as output parameter 3. How can I pass on this output parameter of action 3 to action 4? Here I have defined an input parameter as param 4. So what does this script does? My script does is it runs action 1 and through action 1 it is calling action 3. Once the action 3 is called, it is assigning the output parameter of action 3 to a variable and it is passing that variable to an action 1 parameter, and that action 1 parameter is getting called as an input parameter for action 4. It is a bit complex. A complex structure has been created. But let me put forward for you like this. Okay. What is the step 1? Step 1 is anyway action 1 would be called upon. Okay. What does this action 1 has got? It has got one action parameter whose name is nothing but param1. Okay. This is step 1. This will call upon the step 2 would be, here you are actually seeing it as run action 3 is my first statement, right? So it will call run action 3. So that means I am running action 3 as such. So my second step would be action 3 would be called upon. Okay. This has got what? One parameter, one input parameter and one output parameter. So it will take all values which are necessary for input and it will actually put and actually calculate something and throw an output. Here I am not calculating anything, I am just showing you how to do it. Okay. You can actually pass on two input parameters or x and y and actually give an output parameter as probably sum it up and actually pass it as an output parameter. We will actually evolve from here and how to do it. Step 3 would be passing this output parameter as an input to another action. What is that action here? That action is action 4. So my algorithm goes like this. First step is action 1 would be called upon. That action has got one action parameter, parameter 1. The step 2 is From action 1 I am calling action 3. So that action 3 has got one input parameter and one output parameter. And step 3 is I have taken this action parameter. Okay. Before here there is a prerequisite that we have used this action parameter. This output parameter I have assigned it to as input parameter to action 1. This is just a single step I have actually done. It's not necessary that you should actually use this. Okay, so we can directly pass on parameters from one action to another, but just for your simplicity I have actually used it. Now let us run the script. As soon as I run the script you will better understand it. Okay, so try to see what is the flow. First of all you will have action 2. I'm just simply passing it as x is equal to param 2 and actually printing it as message box. Then actually action 3 will be called upon. First of all action 3 will be called upon from action 1 because that is the flow. So as soon as action 3 is called upon, I am actually taking the value of parameter 3 in a variable x. So input parameter default value of x, if at all there is any. Currently I don't think so, or let us check what are the default value properties. The default value property is, for example, here I will change it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay. Yes. Now the output value will be the input default value is the output default is assigned to an output parameter. And whenever you want to use a parameter, remember one thing, you have to use the keyword parameter. If you doesn't use the keyword parameter, you won't be able to access the parameters. It's an important point. Please try to note it down. You can use the parameters only in this particular fashion. You have to use this keyword mandatorily. Parameter of param3 will only give you a value. If you simply write x is equal to param3 in quotes, that will assume the string value param3. There is a difference between these two. Please try to note it down. Okay, x is equal to, when you say param3, okay, this has got, that means obviously the x will take the value which is written here string as param3. But if you use x is equal to parameter of this param3, it will assume the value which is written inside this parameter 3. So there is a difference between these two. Okay, what is the difference between these two? This value of x would be here. So let me try to run it for you. Okay, so if I run this, so x is equal to param3, if I message box x, I will have a param3. But if I use x is equal to parameter of param3 and message box x, I am getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you understood the difference, right? Or is it everything is going tangentially today? You understood the difference between these two, right?
Yes.
I have actually assigned a value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a default value to this parameter. So as soon as I use the keyword parameter and of parameter 3, I am getting a value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if I am actually running it, assigning the value as simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this first scenario, x is assigned a value of param3, and when I put message box x, it is actually giving me param3. That means a string value is assigned to a variable x. But as soon as I use this variable x to assign a value of the parameter, it will actually give the actual value which is inside the parameter, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So there is a difference between these two. So whenever you want to access the action parameters, you should mandatorily use the keyword called as param. Okay. Now let me run this script for you. So the input parameter default value in action 3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first step is anyway not, it is called upon, action 1 is called, okay. It has got input parameter, we haven't done anything to that input parameter. Now I directly called action 3, so that action 3 is called. So input parameter default value of that action 3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. After assigning this value to an output parameter, the value will become an output parameter is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I have assigned the same input parameter to an output parameter. Okay, don't get confused. We will evolve from here. Just try to understand this. Okay. Then we have got something called as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is nothing but variable 1. And we have got x is equal to param 2 in the parameter 2 action, that is called up. Now what I am going to do is, okay, I am going to rename action 3 for you. Okay, inside action 3, how to rename the action? Go to edit, action, rename action. Okay, no issues. This action 3 would be renamed as addition. Okay, what it will do is it will add 2 numbers. Okay. From action 3, I am actually calling run action addition. As soon as I change the name, see the name automatically got reflected here. Earlier you used to have action 3, I renamed the action, so it has become what? Addition. So it has asked for a pop-up now, I clicked X, modify the value of the action name wherever applicable. So I clicked upon S, so automatically the name got changed. Now let me go to addition here. Okay. Here what I am trying to do is, I create 2 action, in the action properties I am creating 2 input parameters. The second input parameter is param add 1. So this is my first number. I'll say let me put it as a number. So what is the default value? The default value is nothing. So it by default will assume 0. So for example, let me pass it as 22 default value. Okay. Here I am changing this param 3 as 2. So I want to add 2 numbers here in the addition. So it is again a number. What are the different types? So the default value is 26. Okay. So my output parameter will also be a number. So and I have applied the action properties. Okay. So I have passed on, I am going to pass on 2 parameters. Parameter add 1, parameter add 2 as 26, 22, and I want an output parameter. Okay. Yes. Now the parameter of param 3 doesn't exist now. Instead I want to use parameter of param add 1 and y is equal to So I have defined x as, I am actually assigning these values. X is equal to parameter of param add 1, y is equal to parameter of param add 2. Okay. And message box input parameter value 1. So I want to bring this parameters values for you and to show it down. So there are 2 values. First value is something, second value will be something. Now I want to add. Okay. So my z is equal to x plus y. Okay. So I want to assign this z as my output. So I have performed some operation here, that is nothing but adding these 2 numbers, and output 3 is my z. So I want to actually print that value after assigning this value to an output parameter. So after computing values, after computation, inside addition action, the value to an output parameters would be this. Okay. And I am actually valuing it to passing that value to parameter 4. Okay. And what I want is, I want to here take an I want to just print the addition in action 4. Okay. Just to show that Okay. So after assigning the same value, the same output, as an input to different action. Okay. So after assigning the previous output to a different action, that is in action 4, as an input parameter, what is the value? Now let me try to run it for you. Okay. So the input parameter value is what now? The first value which we have passed, that is 22. Okay. The input parameter value 2 is 26. Okay. So after computation inside addition action, this value to an output parameter is how much? 48. Okay. Pardon me, the action 3 is missing. So I have to actually use addition here. Now, let me try to run it again for you. So the first value is 22. The second value is 26. After assigning it to the output parameter, it is 48. Okay, after assigning the previous output to a different action as input parameter, that is, it is actually calling the fourth action. Okay, and what is the value again? It is 48. And the action 2 is called out. Now, instead of doing this, say I have actually called the addition action in action 1. Okay, and as soon as I called it, it is using default parameters. Instead, you can actually pass your own numbers as 5, 4. These are my two input parameters. Okay, here I have called upon action. I can actually pass upon input parameters as 5, 4. So let me pass as an input parameter as 5, for example, and try to run the script. Does it throw an error or not? We will see. So the input value parameter is 2. See, it has taken the output parameter value as 5 here. Okay. Why? Because it always assumes the recently defined parameter value. Okay. Then after computation, the value has become 27. And after assigning to a different action, the value is 27. So, or else what we'll do is, we will again pass on another value here as 4 and try to run the script. So, the first input parameter value is 4. You might find it as an awkward, you passed it as a second argument, why are you showing it as a first argument? You can actually change the order of the input parameters. However you change it, these values will get changed. So the input parameter value 2 is 5. So the sum is 9 and the input parameter is 9. Okay. Have you understood the significance of these parameters, right? As soon as I am changing the values here, my addition sum is getting changed. So for example, if I write 18 here and if I run, the value is 22 now. So I am actually getting different values. And when I am passing different input parameters, that means if I am changing the parameters, my output values are getting changed. And it is obviously yes, because my x in word problem 1 in my 10th class textbook cannot be same as my value of x in for second problem inside the textbook. You understood what action parameters are? Is it clear? But you will only understand it. You will only understand it only when you practice it. Me explaining the stuff, you will only understand the concept of how to use it. But when you actually real time do it practically with your hand, then only you will understand. For me also, I have never used action parameters in my career. I am frankly telling you. Okay. But actually, in order to explain to you, I am actually using it because I know the concept of it. Yes, action local parameters inside the local subject are given precedence. That is right. Okay, every time the action is called upon, the action parameters are the one which assumes lot of precedence rather than the test parameters. Okay, the order is important. You can actually change the order also depending upon how you define the parameter. Say if you define parameter addition 1 first, and if you pass it in the higher order, it will be actually written. So I can actually change the order of precedence also inside the circuit. Go to action properties, parameters. I can actually give an parameter add 2, parameter add 1. Instead, if I change it as say properly 2, and if I change this as 1, okay, yes, go to action, and when I run it, now you are finding it is interesting. In the order I have passed, I am getting input parameter is 18 here, that is what I have passed upon. 4 is the second value, the total output is 22 after addition, and after assigning the previous output of action 3 to action addition action to action 4, it has become as an input parameter to the action. And so how I have passed that as an input parameter, it is nothing but in the same way. How I have passed it in action, for action 1 addition, I have passed it as 18 and 4. For action 1 also, this is my output input parameter of action 1, I have passed out. So there is no much difference. You create a simple action, okay? You create 2 parameters for it and try to do some computation inside it properly, x square plus y square, and pass on those values while calling the action. Then you will understand how to use parameters. Okay? Is it clear? Now let me jump the gun here to environment variable parameters. There is something called as, inside the test settings, file test settings, there is something called as environment. It is a very common interview question. Please bear in mind, you have to answer it in a very explicit way in order to convince the interviewer, okay, who is actually taking the interview. Environment variable parameters are 2 types of environment variable parameters. One is a built-in type environment parameter. The second is a user-defined environment parameters. Okay. So these user-defined environment parameters are again classified into 2 types. One is an external environment variable. The second is an internal environment variable. Okay. So what is the classification or the segregation? Let me use a sticky for that. So there are 2 types. One is built-in, the other is user-defined. Okay. And this user-defined again has got 2 types.